Hello, happy Sunday. Sorry I haven't done a video for a few days. I've actually been really ill. I've had no energy at all and have been sleeping way more than I usually do. So that's why there hasn't been any of this communication by some people, because actually shocker, people do watch my videos, which has come as a surprise to me, but thank you for watching. um, I am thinking of doing a thing on a Sunday where I just answer some of the messages that I receive. Um, I try my hardest to answer them directly if I can. However, as my following is slowly growing, and I do mean slowly, I don't always have the capacity to answer them. But also the same questions come up, so I thought it might be good just to do a quick video, or as quick as I can do because I like to talk, about the common questions that are coming up, so that I can just answer them and hope that, as questions build up, maybe every Sunday I can just address some of them. One major question that I have, probably daily, by several people actually. So the biggest question I get is, how do I handle the online abuse? I've spoken on the radio. I've been featured in the local paper about the abuse that I receive online. Some of it goes with the territory, I guess, with having an opinion and expressing that opinion. Some of which is just awful. I CCHQ recently released a poster which was very similar to this Margaret Thatcher poster, but it was with Boris Johnson, and it was about Brexit. To which one of my Tory colleagues posted a picture of her next to her poster, and then I posted a picture of me with this poster. Didn't really think anything of it, and then someone with a big following from Liverpool retweeted that picture, which then caused a 48-hour pile-on. But it was purely on my appearance, and how much of a disgraceful human being I am. And that was a bit intense, but I got through it. I dealt with it. But I try my hardest to always reply to those trolls. So I don't let it get to me anymore. It used to, and when you have a pile on like that, which is really intense, even the strongest of people sometimes can have moments where they're like, this is a bit much. On those occasions, just shut it all off and just ignore it. If you're like me and you can't ignore those things, then take it step by step at first. You sadly get used to it though, but it's because there's a common theme. So I get called a murderer, I get called a Tory, you know what, blood on my hands, Nazi, far right, that kind of stuff. When you're called that a lot, you realise it's just the left narrative. And then as a Brexiteer, I'm called a racist. And those are the things that you get quite used to. When it's really personal and they bring up that you have an autistic child, or that they're going to come around and rape you, and they want you to die, that's harder to deal with, but you just do. I also, link into that, get asked a lot, or criticised, I suppose, with the fact that I will generally, if I have time, reply. Um, that's my personal choice. I have been advised not to reply, by an editor of a newspaper, and as much as I appreciate their advice, on this occasion I'm not going to take it. There's several reasons why I reply. I reply because people think that they can put things out there and then not understand that there is another person on the other end. So when I reply, some people get quite surprised and then they block me. And I'd like to think it's because they're like, oh gosh, she actually read that. I reply, and when it's on Twitter, I retweet and reply, because I have quite a strong following of young conservatives, and I want them to see that they're not the only ones that get this type of abuse. And I reply in a way that I'm challenging, but I'm not abusive. So I do not name call back. I think if you were to go through my thousands of tweets, for example, you'd be hard pushed to find more than, say, 3 or 4 where I've actually name called or lowered myself. I don't even think there are any actually, but I'm going to say 3 or 4 because somebody will troll through my thousands of tweets to find it. I try and show to other people that you are in control of this. And then out of, there's always that 1% of people that will actually think about it. You're not going to change trolls generally, but these aren't just robots. They're people, they're teachers, they're doctors, they're local people, the news agents. When they get online, they become monsters. And if someone kills themselves, they're murderers. So I feel quite strongly about that there's a difference between having an opinion and being abusive. So as long as I've got the time, I will always challenge it. Recently, during this whole debacle with this photo, someone asked me to step in front of a bus, and I actually gave them the suicide statistics in this country. He had a really big following, and I asked him as a parent how he would feel about someone saying that to his child, and eventually I got an apology from it, and he acknowledged that what he did was wrong. That's 1% of the level of abuse you get, but there are people that just think they get caught up in the moment. They're not bad people. So if you can challenge them and say, actually, we can't see each other face to face, but you're a person, I'm a person, and this is wrong, occasionally that will stop that person or make them rethink about what they do in the future. I'd like to think. It's also incredibly empowering to turn it back on them and to say, okay, you've called me a murderer, but this is this. You've blamed me for this, but statistically, blah, 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 blah. You call me a racist, but actually I do this for the community. I volunteer for a Caribbean Luncheon Club, which helps tackle isolation with the Caribbean community of the over 60s in that particular community. So you can challenge people's ideas. So that's the main thing I get contacted about. I also get asked why I never stood for election, for the general election, and I get asked that on a regular basis. It simply wasn't my time. I'd filled in my application form and I sat on it for ages because of lack of confidence, basically. By the time I sent my application off, the election had been called and it was just simply too late. The Conservatives go through a lengthy process, and it can take months before you're even approved. And so that's why I didn't stand for election. I don't regret it. It was probably the right time to do it in terms of if you want to succeed because of the majority that we received. For me, personally, with adjusting to my life as a single parent, and financially, it wasn't my time. And also, I get asked about these. So yes, I do have braces. I got them a couple of months ago. And yes, it's not actually unusual. Quite a lot of people my age get them. I had braces when I was a teenager, and they didn't quite work, and I've always had an insecurity about my teeth, but also I had actual medical problems with them as well. So I decided that to go through a few months of pain and finally get that award-winning smile, because that is something that I can do to improve myself. So yes, it was an insecurity of mine, and I decided to do it. They're not on the NHS, so I didn't know that it was even possible to get them on the NHS, and even if I was entitled to them, I wouldn't have gone down that route anyway, so I am paying for my braces. So it was interesting that I was getting quite a few messages, oh my gosh, have you got braces? Yes, I have. They're incredibly uncomfortable. They affect my speech and has knocked my confidence a little bit, but with the improvement that's happening so quickly in my mouth, I think it's worth it, and I'm paying for them. So there is no hinky dinky stuff going on with the NHS and my mouth. Yeah, so those are the 3 main questions that I've been asked recently, and I hope I've addressed them, and I will try and do this once a week just to answer some of those questions that I get. But yeah, the main one is about the online abuse, and I'm okay as well. So those that contact me asking me about my mental health when it comes to the abuse, I thank you. It is really sweet, and it does actually help me a little bit with it, but I'm okay, and sadly I'm getting used to it. So yeah, I that's it. That's me for today with my Sunday summary of questions. That doesn't really have a ring to it. I'll work on that to think of something really, really geeky to call this section of my vlogs. Have a lovely, lovely Sunday.